Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutts. I'm your host, Mainz, and my colleague, living at large on Tommy Taylor's landlord, Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
Timmy Taylor's.
Whatever, Timmy. I think Tommy Taylor used to play in goal for Liverpool in the 1950s. Actually, I'm almost 100% sure he did.
I'm pretty certain probably most county teams in the 50s or 40s and 30s had a opening batsman called Tommy Taylor or Tommy Tucker. You know, he played with, Nobby Clark, Chalky White, Dusty Rhodes. That is magnificently, do you know what I mean? It's proper northern name, like, and we should talk about the North as the left-hand side of the North defeated the right-hand side of the North in a game of pyjama cricket yesterday. Dutton, not talking about that, obviously. I prefer, the game of cricket that's actually played in the white clothes.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that one because I believe you won.
Though I don't think you're doing quite the service it desires. The two-time champions of England and Wales, Yorkshire, shellacked.
The current league leaders, or whatever they were at that point. I think they were league leaders at that point, weren't they?
Yeah, they were given a severe pantsing.
Excellent use of pantsing. This week, standard Weird World, obviously. We're going to continue the Neil Dutton 13 series this week with 13 with running backs, which I have to admit, I'm intrigued to see if Neil can actually find 13 running backs who are fancy worthy. I'm sure he will. And we're going to, as we've seemed to do a lot over Waxing Lyrical in 2016, is talk about someone who's passed away, and that's Muhammad Ali.
It is getting to be a bit boring having to spend so much time paying tribute to people that we weren't ready to say goodbye to.
It's 2016 is not messing about. It's not playing games, Dutton.
Whoever let George R.R. Martin write 2016, it was a bad idea.
Well, exactly, yeah, exactly. Thanks, George. Now let's move on, like.
Hold up.
Hold the door. Yeah, spoiler alert. Right, Dutton, let's just get on with it, and let's get on with Weird World. Dutton, in our youth, we were known to, well, one of us was, and we won't say which one, was known to get a little bit obsessive towards women that they fancied.
I'm this person who obviously we can't name for ongoing legal reasons disputes the terms obsessive. He prefers selectively interested.
You were selectively interested. That's a very good story. Obviously, we can't name you for legal reasons, so we won't say it was you. But in this story, Dutton, this is even beyond our friend Christopher Hughes' step too far in she's the one type of situation. Man ejaculated into colleague's coffee because he fancied her. A man has admitted, by the way, to ejaculating into a female colleague's coffee several times, but says he fancied her and hoped it would make her notice him.
Does his product have something about it that shouts who it belongs to? Because the only way you notice it, if, after a few courses, you go up and say, I'm speculating for the want of, for everyone thinking, hey, how was your coffee? Because I added something to, because otherwise, how else is this person, you're not going to be sitting there drinking and go, this is nice coffee. It tastes like Steve.
Well, let's get on to that one. It's Robert John Lind of Blaine, Minnesota, pleaded guilty to ejaculating into his colleague's coffee and over her desk on a number of occasions last year. Don't laugh. The woman said she had an ongoing issue with her coffee tasting foul before she caught Lind with his hands near his genitals and a deer in the headlights expression near her desk. Wow. The victim then noticed a large amount of clear liquid on the top of her desk.
For God's sake.
And said that her hair scrunchie had absorbed a lot of the liquid. Wow.
Now there's a fantasy team name. The absorbent hair scrunchie.
Lind said he likes the victim and is attracted to her. Lind admitted that he ejaculated on the victim's desk and in her coffee on August 26, 2014. When asked why he did this, Dutton, Lind said he thought it was a way to get her to notice him. She did notice. She called the police, Robert.
Yeah,
and now you're in jail, hopefully.
it's it's up there with other such heroic ways to introduce yourself to people, like I don't know, sticking your penis through your neighbour's letterbox. It's a way to it's a way to break the ice. It's also a way, as you say, more likely than not, to involve local law enforcement.
I'm going to a birthday party for a kid's birthday party with the boys.
Where are we going with this?
When I started the conversation, I realised I shouldn't have started it in this way, but I've done it now, so I can't go any further. Married, 3 kids. This is Amy and Tam Gardner. Tam introduced himself to Amy the first time they met by whacking her in the face with his penis. It does work, Dutton, just in case you didn't know. Maybe we should have tried it when we were 19.
I just don't want to even think about what situation the first time you meet someone, their face is in easy smacking range of your penis. Because for some people, that's got to be very close.
For some people, again, we can't talk about those people for legal reasons. Dutton, you talk about a piss up in a brewery. You talk about other characteristics of irony. Irony can be pretty ironic at times. The title of this next one is brilliant. Sausage-wielding extremists attack vegan cafe in Tbilisi. A vegan cafe in the historic city of Tbilisi was forced to cancel an English language video screening over the weekend when a group described by witnesses as far-right extremists threw meat into patrons' vegan dinners and started a brawl. The staff at Tbilisi's Kiwi Cafe, Kiwi, bloody New Zealand people love lamb, that's meat. Anyway.
They don't like it.
Called police on the evening of May 29th after more than a dozen men carrying meat attacked restaurant customers and staff. Right, so we know vegans, we know multiple vegans, right? They don't eat meat, but they're not petrified of it. So if someone ran at them with a sausage, they're not going to run away in fear, thinking if they touched them, they would die.
But these people are extremists, so therefore they've been radicalised to think that is what the case is.
I can see that, yeah. No arrests were made, though. Police briefly detained some cafe members for interrogation. Historically, the line that extremists and people who choose to, become martyrs for their fundamentalist beliefs are told that, on their reward they'll get 72 virgins in paradise. What if you're an extremist meat eater? What, you're going to get 72 Big Macs? What? I don't see where's the. Could you eat 72 Big Macs though?
Could I do it with 72 virgins?
You'd look at them. Suppose you do the same with them. I suppose what you do with 72 virgins and what you do with 72 Big Macs are pretty similar. Well, I reckon you'd get 1 virgin to 4 Big Macs, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course, we're assuming that the virgins are female.
Of course we are. That would be ironic.
Yeah, if you perform this act, get there, and it's essentially it looks like a small meeting room at a Star Trek convention.
That would be disconcerting for a large population of people who believe that wasn't going to be the case.
Pay your money, take your chances.
Exactly. No one said it wouldn't be anything like that, did they? So there we go, Dutton. As always, we love Weird World. I mean, those 2 stories are absolutely magnificent. Please supply us with more. I'm at Mainzy7. Dutton is at ndutton13, and we are combined at Waxing_Lyrical.
When we say we want more stories. We don't want more people trying to demonstrate their undying love for a co-worker or someone that they fancy by providing them with a sample of their wares.
Exactly, Dutton. I don't think we can say it any clearer than that. So Dutton, early this morning, this is Saturday. Recording slightly later due to scheduling difficulties. The world lost.
on Wednesday, basically.
Yeah, the world lost possibly the greatest sportsman of all time, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Mark Sellers Clay, as he was born, heavyweight boxer, political activist, and in my opinion, the greatest talker in sports, if you don't include The Rock. Dutton, have you got, when you think of Muhammad Ali, we obviously are too young to have been alive during his major part of his boxing career, although I assume we were born when he still boxed. What comes to mind when you think of Muhammad Ali?
He was one of the first people really to go out of his way. It was always this idea with sport that, it's an even contest, and therefore, that on the day the best person will win. From what I just imagine, Muhammad Ali was the first person who thought, no, I can beat you before we even start. With outbursts, with certain quotes. He basically turned sport into a spectacle other than. See, this cottage industry that we have where we talk about, sports, because let's be honest, if we're going to talk about sport, it'd be, okay, what just happened in the 90 minutes we just watched? Okay, see you next week. Muhammad Ali tried to bring this, and did bring this air that the whole thing is an event, and that, he's an entertainer as well as a damn fine sportsman. So the first thing that comes across is that, but also that it's hard to not think and just assume, think Muhammad Ali, greatest. It's just inbuilt into all of. It's like, this idea that people think, people from Liverpool are born knowing the lyrics to all the Beatles songs. You just know now that Muhammad Ali was born to be the greatest, and he was, just by how many people from so many walks of life acknowledged that how great he was for a variety of reasons, not just because he knocked unconscious.
I mean, Dutton, at the end of the day, we're not boxing fans, either of us. We've watched boxing in the past together, but more for the social aspect of it, not because, let's have a look at this fight. Muhammad Ali brought millions and millions of people to watch him box. But for me, this is a man who had a set of beliefs and lived by those beliefs. Whether you like those beliefs or not, he decided that he didn't want to go and fight thousands of miles away in Vietnam. That meant he had to deal with the consequences of that, and he did. But it was in his mind, and I suppose in a lot of others, he was proven to be right. It
was the right thing to do.
He taught, but it was, boxing is so much about talking as it is about, as you said, knocking the F out of people. And he was the greatest at that. And he won a lot of boxing matches just by talking his way into it and out of it and around it. And you think of Rumble in the Jungle, you think of Thriller in Manila, you think of those fights with Fraser and Foreman. They're iconic sporting events that, in theory, fat people like Tyson Fury can only dream of. And that's the kind of situation where you just like, this, as you said, this guy is the greatest sportsman as far as many people are concerned. And I'm not really going to be one of those people who argues that kind of situation. And he passed away today. And that's a terrible, sad moment for the world.
I mean, his whole life, he was fighting something. I mean, he won an Olympic gold medal for the United States under the name of Cassius Clay. He tried to eat in a restaurant that was white only. So he threw his gold medal in the river. And, when it came to, okay, we're going to draft you to go and fight in Vietnam, his war wasn't in Vietnam. His war was what was happening in his own country. So the country that the athlete that became Muhammad Ali was living in, there was a battle there that he needed to fight, and it was more important to him morally and spiritually to fight that than go away and potentially, because a lot of people did, die in someone else's crusade.
And I think that's a big thing to do. And nowadays we either don't want sportsmen to talk about politics, or when they do, we roll our eyes and think that's not really the right thing to say. And don't get me wrong, what we don't understand is how much, I assume, the vast majority of people in the world disagreed with Muhammad Ali and his stance on joining the Nation of Islam to start with, and then refusing to go to war. It's hindsight 2020 in these situations, that he's just now known as Muhammad Ali, not an issue, and he was proven to be right. But that wasn't a popular decision. That wasn't like, I'm going to do this and everybody else is going to follow me. Far from it. People did not like it and took it personally.
I think as well, another incredible thing that it's going to get a bit of attention. Obviously, Muhammad Ali was, spent the last 30 years of his life seriously ill, with Parkinson's disease, which is, horrible, horrible illness. But as the great late Stuart Scott said, you don't lose to your illness if you die from it. You lose if you let it stop you living. And so he fought Parkinson's for the last 30 years. He spent more of his life fighting Parkinson's than he ever fought fighting in the ring. And to last 30 years, and for people to still be stunned that it eventually claimed him. And Ali always said, this has nothing to do with boxing, why I got this. This is something else. Obviously, scientists, whatnot, will probably
suggest otherwise.
Yeah, but no, it was just another battle he had to fight.
I mean, what we did was we thought, okay, Muhammad Ali's the greatest sportsman. Let's try and document a couple of other sportsmen who we thought were the pinnacle of their particular sport. Who jumped out to us, who would be spoken upon in that same kind of pantheon.
What was bigger than the sport they played?
Correct. Number one is Babe Ruth. Baseball player, best hitter possibly ever. He did things that the baseball players are doing now in like 1920. It was unheard of what he did. And there's not many professional baseball players who single-handedly create a curse that live for 80 odd years. And Babe Ruth did that because he was a pitcher who played for the Boston Red Sox, won titles as a pitcher for the Boston Red Sox. They threw him on the scrap heap and gave him to the New York Yankees. And it took until 1919 to 2004 for the Boston Red Sox to win a game again.
It's one of those
World Series again, sorry.
Yeah, you don't have to know about baseball, but you know who Babe Ruth is. You probably don't know these stories. You don't know about him, pointing his shot, picking his shot. You probably don't know that. You probably don't know the Bambino curse, but you know who Babe Ruth is. You don't have to know what whip is. You don't have to know what slugging percentage is, but you know baseball because you know Babe Ruth. Just a quick one, though, just going back to Muhammad Ali, greatest sportsman of all time, and we're not going to debate that because these names we're going to list aren't going to top it. Not the greatest boxer of all time.
Probably not. I think that's where you go the difference between sportsman and in sport, right? There are probably Joe Louis or Rocky Marciano. People, I don't understand boxing, so I'm not going to try and name names and name people who are better than them. He was probably the greatest person for boxing, if that makes sense. And we see him as the greatest sportsman for what he did for his sport as an entity. Does that mean he was the greatest boxer? Probably not.
No. Right man, right time, right person.
Correct. Let's move into one of our favourite sports, and that's professional football. There's a lot of greats. We talked about Johan Cruyff a few weeks ago. There's Diego Maradona. There's obviously Messi and Ronaldo nowadays, but that iconic player in this kind of situation is Pelé. Yeah. Professional footballer and terrible actor. 77 goals in 91 games for Brazil. 3 World Cup victories. The only one, he didn't win a World Cup in 1966. He was basically kicked out of multiple games, one of which in a local ground to Union, Goodison Park. Mm-hmm. 650 goals in 690 games for Santos and New York Cosmos. People say he scored 1,000 career professional goals.
Again, this guy was playing in a World Cup final when he was 17. And, in those grainy black and white footage of him being carted off on people's shoulders, tears in his eyes, 17-year-old lad. In those days, there'd been 4 World Cups when he did that. Can you imagine a 17-year-old scoring twice in a World Cup final now? How they'd react?
The world would end. Twitter would explode.
But again, and Pelé is one of these weird people that we always talk about in the sense that his iconic moments aren't goals. It's the Gordon Banks save. It's the time he dummies the keeper. That outrageous dummy, and then he misses. And then it's the shot from inside his own half that goes wide. These are all misses, but they're also, my God, just the audacity to come up with that. You're not going to score. Pelé, again, it's one of those things. He created a legacy that number 10 shirt for Brazil, it's been a millstone around so many people's necks, and probably always will be, because I don't care who you are, you're not Pele.
I mean, Neymar has scored a boatload of goals in a short space of time for Brazil, is an absolutely wonderful player. But the World Cup was in Brazil, and he had number 10 on, and he didn't win. It's that simple.
You don't go back to Brazil if that's what you've done.
Final one, Dutton. Mr. Jack Nicklaus. 18 major victories as a professional. He also won 2 US amateurs prior to that. 115 pro wins. Before we get on to something else, Dutton, he won 18 majors. I would also like to state that he came second 19 times and third 9 times. That is unbelievable statistics. He won a major in 1986. He won his first one in 1962.
If you wanted to win a major in those 30 years, you had to finish above Jack Nicklaus, as those stats indicate. I mean, there's 4 majors a year, so he won 18 of them. How many times did he run up then? 19?
19. So, and he came third 9 times, so you're talking, that's like 46 majors. That's basically 12 years worth of majors where Jack Nicklaus was first, second or third.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. I mean, you can say what you like about golf. It's the most mentally taxing sport, I think, of all the major sports, because your main opponent is you. There's nothing. If me and you were to play golf, and hilarity would ensue, if me and you were to play golf, there is nothing physically you can do to me to affect my game. But what you do with your clubs and your ball can get in my head. And as you say there, for 12 years of his career, essentially, for it to be him or someone else.
Just ahead of him.
Just ahead of him. It's phenomenal. It doesn't even bear thinking about now.
We were a wayward weenie, a bit of exposure from your wife, a 7-9 in the back of a car, from Jack Nicklaus possibly being surpassed by Tiger Woods, but he wasn't, and he isn't, and he hasn't been yet. Like, Tiger Woods has won more on the US PGA Tour than Jack ever did, but he hasn't won as many majors. He never came second as many times or third. These are unbelievable statistics from Jack Nicklaus. And it's one of those things now, like, you look at the guys and there's like, they've won 2 or 3, 4 majors. That's really, really good. And if you win 3 or 4 majors, you're one of the best 20 players ever. He won 18. That's how good he was, Dutton.
Yeah.
So that's us going through the sporting greats in homage to Muhammad Ali. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family, obviously. Dutton, we're at that time. We're talking about it. We're on the end Dutton 13s. And last week, we went through the quarterbacks. Not really that much controversy. But this week, we're going to running backs. Running back, when we first started watching the NFL, was the premier position. And when fantasy started, that was the premier position. If you had the best running back, you were probably going to win your fantasy league. It's slightly changed now. It's not quite like that, but you still need a good running back, Dutton. So talk me through the top 13.
If anyone is interested in the zero running back philosophy, you should listen to the Fantasy Land pod. It's their 4th episode. It was about the zero running back. It's a great series of podcasts. The previous one was about the growth of Roto World, so that's obviously well worth a listen. Number 13 is CJ Anderson, Denver Broncos. I think this year with Denver, they're going to play great defense. We know this. We may have mentioned in the past that their defensive coordinator is a friend of ours.
He is a friend of ours, friend of the show.
But now, whoever's under centre, is it Mark Sanchez? Is it Trevor Seisman, wherever his name is, or is it Paxton Lynch? They're going to run the Kubiak offense rather than the weird hybrid that they were running last year. CJ Anderson is the best running back on this roster. The problem is, I said this last year, and he wasn't fit, and they insisted on giving Ronnie Hillman carries. it's a lovely story. It's not going to work. But I still think CJ Anderson, assuming he's fit, is going to see the majority of the carries and get the boatload of the work. So he's just outside running back one for what running back one means nowadays.
Number 12, Dutton.
Number 12 is Matt Forte, formerly of the Chicago Bears, now a New York Jet. The Jets' off-season is getting tedious. I am sick and tired of the words Ryan, Fitzpatrick, Jets, contract. Boring. Let's finish it now, boys. Forte is an excellent pass catcher, and that's where he's going to make his hay. It's going to impact slightly the fact they've got Bilal Powell with the Jets, who's a great pass catcher himself, but Forte is going to be the main workhorse running back, so he's going to do all the carrying, and he'll get the catches as well. Goal line, I don't know. He's never been never had that much use of goal line when he was at Chicago. The number of times that Michael Bush was vulturing him was just plain annoying. But for where running backs are this year, I like Forte quite a bit.
I feel sorry for the Jets fans. No, I don't. But what I feel sorry for is that the NFL offseason is so long that these stories stretch out so far. Like in the Premier League, you used to get bored every year of Patrick Vieira leaving Arsenal, but at least it was only 6 weeks. This is like 6 months. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Number 11, Dutton.
Number 11, again, we're coming into a running back who's going to be used in the passing game and is going to be useful. Mark Ingram. He is the best running back there. The other alternative is the 32-year-old Tim Hightower. It's a nice story, Tim, but let's jib it, shall we? Ingram's going to be the main workhorse, but they're going to pass the ball 65% of the time because their defense is horrid. But Ingram's a good pass catcher. Snares most of his targets, and he should score his share of touchdowns.
He's flying in the face of fat running backs from Alabama right now. Number 10, Dutton.
A fat running back from Alabama, Eddie Lacy.
He's not fat though, you see. The artist formerly known as Fat Eddie Lacy.
Eddie Lacy is in the position that the Packers will run to be balanced, and he's the best running back on their roster still. They've still got a reliable James Starks, bless him, but he's never going to be a workhorse back. Lacy obviously had struggled with his weight, struggled with the play calling at times, but who knew when Mike McCarthy took the play calling responsibilities back last year, they found a bit more balance, which was good because their running back was overbalancing. So I like Lacy. Again, not the worst option in the passing game, but he'll see easily more than half of their rushing carries, so the volume will be there, hopefully.
Excellent use of volume on Fat Eddie Lacy. Number 9.
Number 9 is Lamar Miller, who's been like a top 8 fantasy running back despite spotty use in Miami the last few years. I worry that if Houston Texans are going to try and turn him into a workhorse, we're going to have this horrible reveal that the Dolphins actually used him correctly and he's not a 25 carry guy. As bizarre as it would seem that the Dolphins get something right. But they are going to want to run the ball. They run a lot of plays. They run a lot more plays under Bill O'Brien than most teams in the league. So he's going to get volume. He's not the worst pass catcher either. So, yeah, I think, top 10 for Lamar Miller. Might be a little bit higher, might go a little bit lower.
I had Lamar Miller last year, and to say he was hit or miss week to week would be the understatement of the millennia. Number 8, Dutton.
Number 8 is a running back that if he hadn't attempted a single rush last year, would still have finished in the top 10 in PPR points for running backs. That's Devonta Freeman. Again, we have this, you're probably noticing a theme, running backs who can catch the ball. Because ultimately, it's what the league does. It's more efficient to pass the ball. Devonta Freeman's main competition is Tevin Coleman. I can't see it. I just think when Coleman was fit last year, he was supposed to start he was going to be the guy to start the year, but he was injured. Freeman came in, and he had a few great weeks, but was quite ordinary for the rest of it, but still contributed. So this is that situation you had that he was taken so late last year in leagues. He would have been the perfect zero running back candidate. Now, obviously, he's going to go slightly. He's not going to get drafted that late this year, but in terms of production. The passing game in Atlanta, who else have they got? Julio Jones, a rookie tight end, Mo Sanu. And they've got this guy who had 93 targets last year.
Makes sense, don't make sense. Number 7.
Number 7's a bit of a leap of faith, assuming he's going to come back and be something like the player he has been in the past, Jamal Charles. Andy Reid hates his running backs running the ball. We know this. I know this more than most. But they get the ball. They do get, he does pass the ball. He does use them in the passing game. I think last year, Kansas City running backs saw 10% of the team's total targets. That's a lot. So Charles is a great pass catcher. He can create so many things out of the backfield, and he's going to be the workhorse. He's probably going to see his work curtailed slightly. They have signed 2 youngsters, but he's still the best running back on the roster, and he has a yards per attempt average of over 5 yards in his career.
To ask that, I don't know, just looking at that literally, Barry Sanders, 5 yards a carry. Gale Sayers, 5 yards a carry. Mercury Morris, 5.1 yards a carry. Jim Brown, 5.2 yards a carry. Jamal Charles, 5.5 yards a carry. Jamal Charles is one of the most underrated players in the NFL. And when he is fit, is explosive and a workhorse.
He's one of those that, he's been unlucky in the while he's been in Kansas City. They've sucked. Yeah. And they're not very exciting. The crowd are fantastic. Love the stadium. Love the noise. But they're a bit dull.
They are a bit dull, and Andy doesn't help. Number 6, Dutton.
Doug Martin, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I know Doug Martin had one great fantasy season, disappeared, then came back last year in a contract year, so I know that's always slightly spotty. But again, he's going to get the carries of a team that want to run the ball. They're going to, they want to take the pressure off Jameis Winston. The other main option is Charles Sims, great pass catcher, not so good on the ground. So if they want to run the ball, which they're probably going to have to, because the targets in the passing game are getting older, he's a volume play. So I really like Doug Martin. I think I think he won't regress too bad.
Number 5, Dutton.
David Johnson. Arizona. The reason David Johnson's down in 5 and not a bit higher where I originally had him is Bruce Arians doesn't talk crap. And, what he says, he genuinely means. And when Bruce Arians is coming out and saying Chris Johnson is still going to get work in the ground game, that's going to cut into David Johnson's workload. David Johnson is a much better pass catcher than Chris Johnson. Once he's in the open field, he's a kick returner. He's got the moves. He can contribute in the passing game. Chris Johnson was a very, very good running back last year, but started to fall away, and that's when David Johnson took over. So I think the fact there's competition, don't mention Andre Ellington to me. It's cute, but let's not. I just think David Johnson is not going to get enough production to be a top 4, top 3 person, but still a good top 5.
Number 4, Dutton.
Ezekiel Elliott, Dallas Cowboys.
Never touched the ball. Explain to me why, in short, why you think he's going to be so good.
Because we've seen Dallas do this. This is the model for how they want to run their offense, and it must kill Scott Linehan because he hates running the ball. He loves throwing it. The defense is crummy. And they have a quarterback who's on the verge of breaking and a paucity of pass catchers. They want to have the ball for 40 minutes a game and say, well, we've scored 20 points in 40 minutes. Can you score 21 in 20 minutes? Ezekiel Elliott he's great. He can run any scheme. He can, power, inside zone, outside zone. He can catch the ball and he can block. He's going to be on the field for 3 downs. If you can get that, you can maximise the amount of opportunities in the passing game and the rushing game he's going to have. Even when they were trailing in 2014, the Cowboys ran the ball. Even if they were down by more than 2 scores, they ran the ball. Assuming Zeke Elliott isn't the second coming of Trent Richardson and doesn't miraculously get beaten out by Alfred Morris or Darren McFadden, he's a very strong play.
Number 3, Dutton.
Number 3, and a lot of experts, and I'm not painting myself in the same pattern as the experts, but I have seen it. A lot of them have Elliott ahead of Todd Gurley. I don't, because despite Jeff Fisher thinking that the Rams are going to, Tavon Austin is going to catch 100 balls this year, which I will now say on air for everyone who didn't see it on Twitter, if he gets 100 catches, I'll buy an Austin shirt.
Put that on the board, ladies and gents.
Yeah.
Put that on the board.
Brand new LA Rams Austin 11 shirt if he gets 100 passes. And in fact, I will start a little tick sheet. I'll get that going for every week. How many more he needs, I will do that.
Can we get it in there just so? Can we get it in the proper LA Rams colours though, not the new ones in the old retro?
Oh, we're going old school, yeah.
Fantastic. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, Gurley is this team's offense. Rookie quarterback, good defense. Kenny Britt on the outside. Of course, it's going to go through him. Assuming he can pick up a few more passes, he'll be a top 3 running back.
Number 2, Dutton.
Adrian Peterson.
Ooh, it's controversial already, but carry on.
Adrian Peterson is... We know what we're going to get from Adrian Peterson. It's going to be 1,200 yards. It's going to be nearly 10 touchdowns, and it's going to be an off-season every year of he's going to get more involved in the passing game. He's really not, so there's no point thinking about it. He's going to be productive enough that he doesn't have to. Again, it's a team that doesn't have an awful lot of passing options. Teddy Bridgewater isn't going to go out 4 wide, no running back, 4 wide, 1 tight end. Let's bomb it. Not going to happen. Although, again, North Turner, I'm sure, would love it if it did. Peterson is, I don't know how long he's got left as in this tier, but he'll be a decent one again. And he'll be up there, up and around the leading rusher in the league. So, why not?
And finally, Dutton, number 1 in the Neil Dutton 13 running backs. Who is it?
It's Le'Veon Bell, who, when fit, is the best running back in football.
We're happy that he's going to be fully fit. We haven't got any concerns over nagging injuries or whatever.
Well, it's if you speak to experts of a medical persuasion in the NFL and say, are these players injury prone? The good ones will always come back to you. Who isn't injury prone in the NFL? It's a good point because Tom Brady's been on the injury list for the last 400 years, but never misses games. They're all hurt. You do worry that this is now Le'Veon Bell's 4th season. He's never played 16 games. He either misses the start or he misses the end. But when he does play, he's so damn productive. And he's the perfect running back in the scheme and what they want to do in Pittsburgh. Assuming he can get 12 games. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of handcuffs. I think it could be a wasted pick. Le'Veon Bell, if you're going to get him, get D'Angelo Williams in the 10th, 11th, 12th round. You're probably going to need the backup because D'Angelo Williams in games that Bell missed last year was so productive. So especially if you're going to go 0 running back, and if you go 0 running back and somehow get Le'Veon Bell, well played, my friend. But you've got to protect yourself, and he could be a play at the end of the season that wins you a championship.
So that's top 5, Dutton. Who have we got?
Top 5, we have David Johnson, Zeke Elliott, Todd Gurley, Adrian Peterson, and Le'Veon Bell. 4 NFC running backs.
Can't argue with that, Dutton. Can't argue with that. Before we wrap up the show, talk people briefly on 0 running back.
0 running back is a philosophy that basically flies in the face of what you said earlier about how when fantasy football first started, you need the stud running back. That's how you get your points. So zero running back basically means don't worry about your running backs. Take wide receivers and tight ends and wait as late as you can to get contributory running backs. Not workhorses, not studs, not Adrian Peterson, not Le'Veon Bell. Because Adrian Peterson was the running back 1 last year in terms of fantasy points. He scored 3, I think in standard scoring, I think he scored 3 more points, than Demaryius Thomas, who was the 9th wide receiver. Teams pass the ball more, so it stands to reason that you should invest in players who are going to pass catches.
Done. Excellent work. 13 running backs. Didn't think there was 13 running backs you get points off, but to be fair to all them, I think all of them have got a chance to get some teams some valuable victories in the 2016 fantasy season. Next week, Dutton, let's go to the opposite way of what last week I was like, can he find 13? Next week I'll be like, how does he only call 13? And that's the wide receivers.
I'm looking forward to that.
And we may have Dutton doing an interview with a guest we've had before and an absolute legend, but I'm not going to tell you who it is.
That's what's known in the industry as a tease.
This has been Waxing Lyrical. Get used to it.